So GSI is the leading designer and manufacturer of interior hardware for the aviation sector. So they make locks and latches on aircraft. Think about the occupied or vacancy latch that you might see on a Boeing aircraft, though they do a lot of business, a significant amount of business with private jets as well. So diverse customer set there. But Gina Radke and her husband Wade purchased the product line of an interior hardware business in 2005. They moved this struggling aviation business from California to her home state of Arkansas. And Gina will tell you that she and her husband knew nothing about aerospace and nothing about business when they first started out. But Gina's background being in sociology and her husband Wade's background being in industrial engineering. But Gina's sheer determination led Galley Support Innovations to its success today, including being named SBA Business Person of the Year in 2016, which I'm told the award was presented to her by Mark Cuban off of Shark Tank. So fun story there. But running this business has really put her into the forefront of community service as well as international trade. Gina serves as a trade advisor to Congress on the International Industry Trade Advisory Committee in DC, where she advocates for small and minority businesses. Receiving awards both locally and nationally in business, Gina has been named as one of 5 women to watch in international business. Gina was named a Spark Star for her work on behalf of women and minorities in STEM career fields. Gina has also been named a 40 under 40 by the National Business Aviation Association in 2018. So a passionate believer in community service, Gina serves on many nonprofit boards. She's currently president of the Arkansas Aerospace and Defense Alliance and a commissioner on the Career Education and Workforce Development Board. She's well known for her involvement in community service and empowering others with economic opportunity. And as I've gotten to know Gina a little bit more throughout the day, her philosophy in business reminds me a lot of Bill Pollard. So some of you might be familiar, Bill Pollard, Chip's dad, and former CEO of ServiceMaster. And a quote that Bill Pollard would often share at ServiceMaster was not to leave your faith on the church pew on Sunday, but take it with you to work on Monday. And I see that in the way Gina not only runs her business, but how deeply ingrained that belief is and how our faith should permeate our hiring practices and the way we conduct business with customers, suppliers, and employees. So I'm really excited. We as the College of Business are excited that she accepted this invitation to speak here. And tonight she's going to talk about how passion for people built a company. Please help me welcome Gina.
So the other day, I was sitting in my office and I was trying to decide, what I'm going to do to connect with you guys. What am I going to do to bring in your attention and maybe change the way that I've been giving speeches for the past couple of years? And so, I thought, and I decided to turn to one of my trusted advisors, Google. So I turned to Google and I said, gosh, what am I going to do? And I started searching for PowerPoint templates because, everybody loves a good PowerPoint, right? So I came across this one. I came across this template. And what I found interesting about this template was it literally told me absolutely everything I need to do to connect with my audience. This is your presentation title, right? Hello, my name is Jalen Smith. Obviously, I'm not Jalen Smith, but it tells you this is what you do. This is where you introduce yourself. This is where you give your social media contact information. I actually like this one, and I went ahead and changed it a little bit. Gave it a girl with long hair. I'm Gina Radke, and I'm here because I want to move you to action. I'm honestly not even sure if that's the truth, but in the side it told me, you need to tell them something to move them to action. So I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. My social media is at Gina Radke. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that good kind of stuff. So now is actually where you can pull out your phones and pretend like you're connecting with me on Instagram and social media, and because it'll come in handy later in my presentation, I promise. Let's see. Transition headline. Got one of those. Let's start the first set of slides. Absolutely everything I needed. It tells me right here that I need to give you an inspirational quote. But I'm kind of lazy, so this is what we got. Use a chart to explain your ideas. You know, I got to tell you guys, what the most fun that I've had with this PowerPoint is the fact that when I sent it to Brad, or Mr. Gatlin, he said, I think that this may be an early draft. You know, do you have a revision? And I said, no, that's the real one. And then he came back and he said, are you sure this is the right one? I said, no, that's the right one. And so then we sent it on to the AV guys, and he said, I don't think this is, oh no, something's happened. You know, I don't think this is the right one. And so it's almost been like I pulled a practical joke on everybody that's looked at this. But it tells me, you know, bring the attention of your audience over a key concept. Boom. Here's my big concept, right? Big impact. Use a huge picture. Right there, I know everything to do, right? Maps. Now see, it even inserts a slide where you guys can get bored and start looking at those phones where you're supposed to be connecting to me on Instagram, right? What are we doing right now? We're checking out the inspirational quotes from the Oscars or what Cardi B is doing. That's what's going on right now, right? Big numbers. I love this, right? Got it. One of my favorite ones. Our process is easy. First, second, and last. That's what you do, right? So what I find interesting about this slide, and let me warn you, I was completely lazy on that. Look, none of it is me. It is all completely the template, okay? This is why people kept freaking out every time they kept looking at it. But what is interesting about this is that we Google everything, right? We can Google everything. We used to have Google wars in my house where I have 3 sons, and 2 of them, I have 2 21-year-olds. Well, actually, one is 21, one is 20. He'll be 21 in June, and then I have a 15-year-old. So we adopt, and that's how I have kids 4 months apart. It's not, some scientific miracle. And so we would have Google wars. One child would state a fact, and he would say, the sun is 900,000 miles from the earth. And we'd go, okay, let's Google it, and let's see who's right. And so we would Google everything, Google wars. And you can even Google, how do I heal from a broken heart? But there is one thing that you cannot Google, is you cannot Google, what is my passion? Now, watch. I got a few guys right here, probably finance and accounting guys. You guys are probably Googling right now to see if that's true, right? And it will tell you, it may give you 10 steps to discover your passion, but it cannot tell you what your own personal passion is. And so I want to walk you through how I discovered my passion and the things that I did throughout my career that helped turn my passion into a successful company. So first of all, let's get this out. I like to make money. I mean, making money is one of my passions. I love it. And I know that some of you guys are thinking, oh gosh, she's an evil capitalist, right? But hey, money helps other people. So I enjoy it. I enjoy looking at financials. I enjoy helping an entrepreneur. We talked about someone that was failing in business, and we came in and we purchased part of their business, and we mentored them, and we gave to them, and we encouraged them, and now they have a successful business. I enjoy that. I love that part of business. So for a long time, when I started our company, and if you're going to be an entrepreneur, let me tell you, you're going to be the chief dishwasher, the marketing person, the CEO, the toilet scrubber, the floor painter. You're going to be all those things. And so when we first started our business, I did everything. I scrubbed toilets, and then I got on the phone and made conference calls. And as a matter of fact, speaking of Google, one of the things that I did was when I was working on my very first multi-million-dollar contract, my customer had 6 lawyers assigned to this contract. Now, we were a company of 4 at that time. So they would say, here is chapter 1. How do you feel about this? This is our marketing chapter. And I would say, let me discuss this with my legal team. And I would hang up the phone and I would Google, is this a good idea? What are the laws on this? And I went, and what's crazy is I tell that story now, and we've been a customer with them for many, many years. And when I tell that story, I had one of their VPs in an audience one time as I'm telling that story, and he goes, thank God you didn't tell that story in the beginning, because there is no way that we would have done business with you. And I'm like, I know, that's why, I just had legal advisors, and they were Google. I tell everybody in the beginning, the way that I learned to run my company, it was Google and God. A lot of Google and a lot of prayer. I run CNC machines. I don't know if you guys know what they are. They're very large machines where you take a piece of metal, you put it in the machine, you pull up a program, press a button, and that machine makes a part. Is essentially how simple it is. But I run those machines, and I learned how to run those machines by Google and YouTube and watching videos, and that's how I learned to run those machines. So in the beginning of our business, it's nothing but me, God, and Google, and we're praying, and I'm learning things, and I'm, painting floors and scrubbing toilets and doing marketing calls, and then getting dressed up and fancy and going to sell someone parts for a $65 million jet. And I'm doing all of these things, and I started to think, I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I have a passion for people. Like, I want to help people, but I feel sort of evil because I really want to make money too. And what I'm doing is all about making money. So I began to be a little conflicted, and I began to give to charities. And one of the things we did was I promised God I would give 1% of my sales to charity every year. Not 1% of our profit, because there were many years where we had no profit, but 1% of my sales. And so I began to, send people on trips and mission trips. And at one point, I remember I wrote a check for a young lady to go to a missions trip. And I was heartbroken. And I was like, God, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be on the mission field. My hands are supposed to be in the dirt. I'm supposed to be digging the well. Like, how can I affect people? And how can I help people sitting behind this desk or running this machine and writing this check? I don't feel like that's right. So I began to pray, and I began to think, God, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to work through this? And I thought, ministry, right? I'm supposed to go into ministry. So my husband and I decided we're going to go into ministry. We're going to pastor a church. We left our home. It was not sold. It was not rented out. And we moved to another town, and we start pastoring this church. Wonderful people there. I'm still running the business. He's pastoring. I'm serving alongside him. And what was interesting is our ministry failed. Our home went into foreclosure. We were paying 2 house notes. And here I'm thinking, wait a minute, God, this isn't how this works, right? Like, I'm supposed to have this story about how I was trying to be rich and famous, and then I turned to God and said, no, that's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to serve God, so I'm going to go into ministry, and then you're supposed to make it all work out, right? Like, some fish and loaves, right? This is all going to work. And it didn't work. And I failed. And my husband failed. And we were ministering to families that were broken while my family was breaking. And I'm looking at God going, wait a minute, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Nowhere in the Bible does it say, rich young ruler, give your money to the poor, and you're going to be really poor and it's really going to suck. That's not what it says, right? We're supposed to give our money to the poor and then you're going to bless us, right? And it wasn't happening. And so on the flip side, what was interesting is as all of this was going down, as my family is breaking, as our ministry is breaking, our business starts to build up. And it continues to build. And it starts to become more and more successful. And it starts to become profitable. And let me tell you what happened on the road between profit and failure, or failure and profit, is as everything was crashing down on us, as everything felt awful, I had a 20-minute commute to work. I'd left the house just sitting there that was 5 minutes from work, and I had moved to a town that was actually 27 minutes away. So I had a 27-minute commute to work, and with traffic was bad, it may be an hour. And I was driving to work, and I was praying, and I was like, God, what's going on? Why is this happening? And very clearly, God said, you didn't keep your promise to me. You promised me 1% of your sales. Yeah, you sent a girl to Haiti, but that's not 1%. You didn't keep your promise to me. And so, clear as day in my mind, I heard $5,000. Now, I want you to know we have not made it to the pit stop of profitable yet. We're still in broke town, okay? And then I'm thinking, $5,000? I don't have $5,000. We don't have $5,000 in our bank. But I knew God was like, $5,000. I said, okay. So I did something. It was a little sneaky. I didn't tell my husband. I emptied out our savings account, I emptied out our business account, and then I went to our LOC, which is our line of credit. We had $1,600 left on this line of credit. This was literally the only money that we really had, just in case something went wrong. It was a $60,000 line of credit, and we only had $1,600, if that tells you how bad life was. So I took that money, I took the money that was in our account, and we went to a place that was called the Union Rescue Mission. And I took all 4 of my employees, and we walked around the Union Rescue Mission. And when we were leaving, the Union Rescue Mission is a homeless shelter for men. It has a battered women and children's shelter, and it also has drug rehab programs for men and women. So as I'm in this place, I begin to look at these people, and I'm like, man, that's it. Like, I can help these people. If I'm successful, I can give these people jobs. I can help them change their life. And so I really began to kind of see where God was leading me in this. And it wasn't about, yes, it was about being obedient and keeping my promise to God, but it was also God saying, you've been through all this. Let me show you where your passion can be put to use. And so as we walked out that door, I gave the man an envelope, and it had that $5,000 check in it. And then we got in the car, and I'm thinking, now's a good time to break it to my husband, because he's not going to go steal it back from the homeless people. So I think now's a good time. So I told him, I said, I cleaned out our account, I cleaned out our LOC, and I donated $5,000. And he was like, what in the... And there were some explicit words at that point. And he said, we needed that money. He said, I need to buy tools. I need to buy, material. Like, we needed that money. And I said, I know. And the reason I didn't tell you was because I know you were going to say no. And I felt very clear that God told me to do this. Now, let me preface this and say, this is not a marital speech right now, okay? This is not, don't take that into your marriage. And when we got back to our facility, I went and we had a mailbox that sat on the side of the wall at that time, and I opened the mailbox, and I used to literally, last week, I had been putting my hand on this mailbox and literally praying for God to send checks. I was like, Lord, please let our customers pay us so I can pay our employees. So I opened, and nothing was coming. So I opened this mailbox, and I pull out a check from one of our customers for $1,600. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Now, $1,600 isn't going to pay our people, but it's going to pay them back, right? That was on a Wednesday. By Friday, I had received $5,000 from our customers. And to this day, we have never had to pull money from our LOC. I've never had to worry about whether I'm going to be able to pay our employees again. But more importantly than that, and I don't want you guys to take that as a message of, if I give God my last 20, he's going to bless me with 20,000. But what I want you to know is that lit my passion on fire. Like, I started to see what my passion was. And guess what? I wasn't, a freshman in high school or a freshman in college. I asked someone today, I said, what are your career aspirations? And they kind of looked at me, and I was like, you know what? Hey, I know that's a big trick question. My 15-year-old son told me the other day, someone asked him, they said, what do you want to do when you get out of high school? And he goes, I have no idea. He said, the way my parents talked about stranger danger and kidnappings, I never thought I'd make it this far. He's like, I have to rethink my whole life. Like, I didn't think I was going to make it out of the, playground at elementary school. So I know that's a trick question. And everybody right now, what do entrepreneurs tell you? Follow your passion. Find your passion and follow it. How many of you really know what your passion is? Right? Probably not a lot, or else it wouldn't pop up when I go, what is and it pops up passion. Passion and like Sagittarius, Cancer, what's the other one? The signs in my astrological sign were like the two that popped up, and I was like, oh, that's funny. So we want to know what our passion is, right? So I'm thinking, I'm going into business. My passion is making money. I love to make money. I want to make money. Then I think my next passion is I want to go into ministry. I want to minister to God's people. I want to serve God. That's my passion, right? And then somewhere on that road between broke and broken to success, God says, this is your passion. At my lowest point, this is your passion. So I began to build that passion. I began to volunteer at the homeless shelter. I began to take people who society had said, you have done wrong, you have committed a felony, and you're in prison, and when you get out, we don't want you. And I began to give them jobs. So part of my company is we don't just give money. We don't just go and give that $5,000 check. We hire people. We hire people who have been in prison. We hire kids who have aged out of the foster care system. Some of you may know this, but at 18 years old, at 4 p.m. to be precise, on your 18th birthday, if you are in foster care and you have not been adopted, you are homeless. 4 p.m. You guys think about where you were on your 18th birthday and what you were doing. At 4 p.m. on your 18th birthday, someone is putting your bags in a trash bag and they're dropping you off at a local bus station in hopes that you have family that's far away. Or they're taking you to the Salvation Army. Or nowadays in Little Rock, we have an organization called Immerse Arkansas, and it's a homeless shelter for youth that have aged out of foster care because it was such a great need. So we began to hire kids who had aged out of foster care and who had no skill. So my company, we don't just give the check. We do still give a check. We still give 1% of our sales, not our profit, 1% of our sales, but we're 50% business and 50% ministry. And what that means is when people come into our business and you're sitting, I have something called an ELT team, and it's an executive leadership team. And those are the people that I think that when I decide to go on and do something else, they're going to be able to take my place. We sit at our staff meeting and we say, okay, how do we make more profit? We want to make more profit. What do we do? So 50% of our time is talking about making more profit, and the other 50% of our time is talking about how do we minister to the guy who's cutting into our profit because he has to do everything 5 times. Because he's scrapping all our material. So we have this balance that's going on. And the truth is, business is hard. Especially if you're an entrepreneur and you go into business for yourself, business is hard. And ministry is hard. And you put those two things together, and it's extremely hard. Because you constantly walk the line of profit versus ministry. And the truth is, we have to have profit, because if we don't have profit, we can't make improvements and we can't hire new people. And we have to minister to people because it's in our very core. It's who we are. That's our passion. And that passion was found not after taking a Facebook quiz, not after Googling it. It was found after being broke and broken. That's when that passion came up. And we hire people that have the same passion. Someone asked me, they said, how does it work when you have someone we have what we call traditional and non-traditional employees. A traditional employee is someone who is educated and skilled to do the job, and a non-traditional employee is someone who does not have the skills or education to do the job. And they said, how does that work? And I said, sometimes it's really hard, but when we interview people, we tell them, this is a ministry. Do you want to be involved with this ministry? You're going to have to work with someone who doesn't know what they're doing. How many of you guys have done group assignments? How many of you guys love to have the guy that has no freaking clue what he's doing in your group, right? Nobody loves to have that guy in your group. So you really have to have a ministry heart about it. You have to change your mindset of, I need to work with this guy because we got to get this project done and we got to make more profit. You have to change your mindset to go, this guy is a ministry. I'm going to teach him or her, and I'm going to help them have a better life for themselves. I'm going to help them come out of poverty and change not only their lives, but their children's lives and their grandchildren's lives. Generational changes is what we're looking for in our company. And it's important to us. And it is the very core of our being. I once heard one of our engineers say, I need to make sure that this person fits within our culture. At that time, we had 4 engineers. They were all in their 20s, and they all played disc golf on their breaks and at lunch. And so I told them, I said, I want you to make sure that you remember that our culture is not young 20-year-old males who go and play disc golf. Our culture is ministry. We have 2 products. We have a people product and a physical product. We build the physical product to build the people product. We make profit off the physical product to build the people product. And I said, because if you think that our culture is 20-year-old dudes out there playing disc golf, you're never going to hire a 45-year-old Hispanic female to come in and work in your culture. So be mindful of our culture. So our culture is ministry. Yes, our culture is making money, but our culture is also ministry. And as we began to grow, and so now I have about 56 employees. I have 42 in one area, and then we bought another company, and we have several over there, and if you add them up, we've got about 56. We own a real estate investment company. We do private equity investing. We're very diversified. So as things began to grow and as I began to have success, monetary success, I still struggled with, God, I'm not supposed to be rich, right? Because we all know that the love of money is the root of all evil. And I don't know, you don't have to show me your hands, but especially those of you in the business world, how many of you think, I really love business, but I'm also afraid I'm going to hell because I love business? That was my thought. I was like, oh no, I really love this, and here I am making money, and I kind of want these things, and they're kind of cool, and I want to go on these vacations, and I want to do these things, but I started feeling bad. I started having that guilt, that success guilt. And my one of the worst stories probably is to tell you is that I bought a Prada purse. And I love red bags. I love red. It's my signature accessory color. I always have a red bag. Matter of fact, at one point in my kid's life, I decided to buy a black bag, and my kids were walking up in the grocery store, and I saw one of them go to put his hands on the cart, and he backed up. And I said, what's wrong? And he goes, there's not a red bag in there. Like, where's our cart? And I was like, that is our cart. And they're like, where's your purse? I'm like, that is my purse. My kids were so shocked that I had a black purse that they wouldn't even touch the grocery cart. So I love red bags, and there was this red Prada purse, and I thought, I really like that purse. And I can afford it. Like, I know I can. Like, I'm debt-free, paid off all my debt. I did that first. I have money. I can do that. I can buy this purse. I went back and forth, and I looked at that purse about 4 months going on this stupid purse, right? And so finally I decided, the purse went on sale. Now, how sad is this? I saved about $2,000, if that tells you anything about how expensive this purse was. I almost feel bad telling you I saved $2,000 to buy the stupid purse. I bought the purse. The minute I purchased that purse, I felt so guilty. I spent the exact same amount of money, and I sent a girl to Haiti to build a well because I had such guilt about buying this purse. So then I carried my purse for about 3 weeks, and someone said to me, they said, is that a Prada? And I was like, yes, but I got it on sale. I got a really good deal on it. And I began to say that over and over. Essentially, what I was doing was I was apologizing for my success because I thought my success was evil. Because if I had material things, even though I was debt-free, I have an entire year's worth of my living expenses saved, I have saving for retirement, I felt bad for that material purchase, right? So I'm thinking, oh gosh, people are starting to notice. So I put the purse up in the closet, and that purse sat in my closet for 3 years. And finally, my husband, I'd go and buy another red bag, and I have all sorts of red bags. And finally, my husband said, do not buy another red bag until you start using that purse. I'm tired of you feeling ashamed and guilty for your success. We've worked hard for that, and you deserve to carry that purse with pride. And so all I thought was, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to buy every purse I want. Tell me I can't buy a purse. And so, yeah. So after I got over, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to buy whatever I want. About 6 months later, I said, okay, I'm going to pull this bag out of there, and I'm going to start carrying this Prada purse. And so I started to carry it. But the guilt is so ridiculous. And why do I have that guilt? Because I've been taught that in order to love the Lord, you got to be poor. Because I've been taught that you have to give and give and give, and you have to give not only out of your abundance, but out of your need. And I've done that. I remember when I gave that $5,000 check, the guy came and he called me. And really, if I'm being honest, I didn't get in the car and just tell my husband, hey, this is what we did. The guy called and was so excited that my husband could hear him on the other side. And I'm sitting in the car like, thank you, yep, okay, And he goes, how much did you give him? But I told the guy, I said, I want you to know that gift was not out of abundance. It wasn't that we just had that money sitting around. And so I'd given and I'd done all these things, and here I am still feeling guilty about my success. And I apologize for that. My husband, when I turned 40, I just turned 40. As a matter of fact, when I won the 40 under 40 deal for the Aviation Association, they called and I said, I turned 40 this year. I was like, thank you, but and they said, we chose you 2 days before you turned 40. And I said, I'll take it, thank you. So people in the aviation world still think I'm under 40, and I'm okay with that. But when I turned 40, my husband went and paid cash for a little red sports car. Now, actually, what I asked for was an Expedition. I said, I just want a Ford Explorer, Expedition, or whatever those things are. I like that car, and I'm happy with it. And so next thing I know, I come home, and he's got this big bow, and he made this big thing, and there is this red convertible. It's an Audi, blah, blah, Quattro, something, something, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what it is. I do know that one guy was talking to me, and all of a sudden, he goes, oh, you got Pirelli wheels. And I said, they have a name? I was like, crap, that means they're going to be expensive to replace. So that's all I really know about this car. But when he did that, I was so touched, and it was so sweet. And the reason that he wanted to do that for me was because he said, when I first met you, you were in a little sports car. And you've always given up the cars that you wanted for, the minivan and the company van and the family cars, and I want to do this for you. And it was very sweet from him. And I wrote almost a blog on Facebook about this car is not materialistic. This car is hard work. This car, we have zero debt. This car was paid cash. Like, I just wrote this big giant blog, and I thought I was being humble. I thought I was telling everybody, don't look at me and think that I'm better than you. I don't think that I'm better than you. All this kind of great stuff. And somebody called me and said, why are you apologizing for your success? I said, dang. I thought I was being humble, like I'm just like, hey. And she was like, no, what you're saying is you're not happy with what you got. And I'm like, no, I'm happy. I'm grateful. I'm happy. And she said, then stop apologizing for your success. Like, it's okay to be successful. That's okay. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to stop apologizing for my success. I got it. Here we go. I do it over and over and over. I post a photo of us, on a trip somewhere, and then I post a picture of me like still painting the floors because I'm like, see, I still work. I promise. I don't think I'm better than you. And I don't know exactly why we have that. I think because in society today, especially in the Christian society, we have one group that tells us that in order to love the Lord, you have to be poor as a church mouse, and you have to give everything away, and you have to have nothing. And then we have the other group that tells us, you need to make money. If God loves you, then he would bless you financially, and you can live your best life and go have money, and God wants you to drive a Cadillac. And the truth is, neither one of those are universal messages. And the love of Jesus Christ is a universal message. So this is just an added bonus to my speech. If you are listening to something that is not a universal message, it is not the truth. Because God's love translates whether you're from a village in Uganda or whether you're from Northwest Arkansas and you are the CEO of Walmart. It translates the same. So if that message doesn't translate back and forth, it's not of God. And sorry, I feel like didn't mean to start preaching on you guys. But it's important to remember that God's love it's not tied to success. It's not tied to blessings. One of the things I used to say is, to be humble, to excuse my hard work and excuse my successes, I would say, I've been so blessed. Oh, God has blessed us. Oh, look at this red sports car that I don't need. Oh, look how God blessed me. Do you know what that says? That says to that foster child who was yanked out of his home at 5 years old because of physical, sexual, and drug abuse that he wasn't blessed. That he's 18 years and homeless, but God doesn't love him enough to bless him. That's not the truth. So I changed my verbiage. I don't say, I'm so blessed to excuse the success that I have. What I say is, thank you. I've worked hard for that. I was given opportunity, and when those opportunities came, I worked hard. And now I want to honor God with my wealth and with my success and with my materialistic things. That's what I say now. Because it changes the idea that you're only blessed if you're rich. And it's absolutely not the truth. We are blessed because we love the Lord. And so this is all wrapped up inside my company. Everything that we do. We have a once a month potluck, and that potluck started because I was looking at my people and I was like, man, there was this one woman and she was eating crackers. And I was like, you on a diet? Like, why are we eating crackers? And she was like, oh no, she kept saying, I forgot my lunch. But all it was crackers. I said, if nothing else, I can feed her right now. I can feed her. So we started having once a week, I would feed everybody, we'd have a Bible study. Now we've grown, and so now we do different departments will have their own lunches, but we still do once a month. We do a Bible study or some sort of word of encouragement, and we feed everybody. And let me tell you, we eat good. My people can cook. It's pretty amazing. So one of my questions, and I have no idea how far I am on time, but, oh look, Amy's telling me to wrap it up. One of my questions to you guys is like, what is your passion, right? Are you going to Google it? Are you going to look at Facebook and you're going to say, hey, let me take this Facebook quiz and find out what my passion is? And what is stopping you from achieving your passion? And what are your views on success? I want you guys to look at that, and I want you to think, do you think success is evil? Can you be successful and still be in ministry and still love the Lord and still give back? Can you do those things? And then how can you do those things? What is your passion? What do you want to do? What has failure taught you in your life to find that passion and to decide, this is who I'm going to be, and it's okay to be this person because God loves me just as much as he loves the person who hasn't been blessed to live in a first world country and get the things that I do. And how can I help that person? What opportunities can I provide to other people? So my question to myself has always been, what can I do to help other people? What opportunities can I provide to help other people? So as you guys go forward in your lives, I want you to think, what opportunities can you provide to help other people? So thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you, Gina. If you have a question for Mrs. Radke, if you would raise your hand or otherwise flag down Dr. Ladner, he will find you. I'm going to kick it off actually by stealing a question from dinner that Dr. Wallenchuk asked, which I think it was Joe, but asked about success stories from your hiring practices of, hiring felons and hiring 18-year-olds as they age out of the foster care system. Would you mind sharing one of those stories?
Yeah, sure. We have lots, and one of my favorite. I have two that are my favorite. One is we actually hired a guy who'd been in prison for a total of 20 years. He was on death row for 17. So when we found out, when he came and applied, I was very, very impressed with him. And I never thought to ask, how'd you get from death row to here? But we hired him, and he turns out that he was wrongly accused and wrongly prosecuted, I guess, or wrongly convicted. Thank you. He was wrongly convicted of a double homicide. And so he spent 20 years in prison, 17 in death row, and then he gets out. Now, I would imagine if I had been wrongly convicted and spent half of my life in prison, I would pretty much hate the world. This guy came out, and he was so excited to have a job, and he works. We have this little bitty area where we do bag rack. We call it bag wrap and tag, where you bag up our products and you get them ready for shipping. And he works there, and we could not get him out of there forever. We were like, come out, we want you to teach you how to do assembly. We want to teach you how to run a machine. We want to move you up in your career here. And he would not come out of that room, and it finally dawned on us that was about the size of a prison cell. And so he felt very, very comfortable in that room. Well, he's been with us for over a year now, almost 2, and he comes out of the room, and he's very active, and he talks to people. He has a place of his own now. He has a girlfriend. He has a side hustle. He actually mows lawns and does side work, housework on the side. And so that is a huge success story for this guy. And then I have another one where we had a guy that had gone to prison. Actually, he'd gone to prison for fraud. I probably should have asked that again before I put him in the department that I put him in, because one day he's working and someone said something about a check, and he said, oh, you can't give me the check. I went to prison for fraud. And I was like, I thought you went to prison for drugs. And he was like, well, it was, but it was fraud because I needed drugs. And I was like, oh, yeah. I really got to start asking more questions, when I hire people. And he came and he loved what he did with us, but he really wanted to design things. He really wanted to go into architecture. So he worked for us for about 3 years, and then he got a job at an architectural firm, and he's doing amazing now. And what's interesting is now we hang out on kind of on the social side, on the nonprofit side. I've invited him and his new wife to be a part of a committee. My husband and I are chairing a fundraiser this year, and we've invited them to be a part of that committee. And so he's a wonderful success story as well.
Well, thank you very much for sharing those. So who has the first question?
It's actually changing the more that we grow. In the past, we had a much larger ratio of non-traditional to traditional, but what we are finding is that we are not able to serve our non-traditional as well if we've got like a 5-to-1 ratio. So now what we have is about a 1-to-5 ratio. We have, for every 5 traditional employees, we have about 1 non-traditional. And so we've sort of learned as we've gone through this that it's better to have 1 non-traditional per department, so they can really be trained and they can be poured into by the other people that are around. So.
Can you describe how is the hiring process? And also, do all your employees are sharing the same faith? Or do you have any case of someone who refused to accept the gospel, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah. So our hiring process it's pretty much the same as everywhere else. They go through the process. They fill out a resume, or they send their resume in, or they fill out an online application, and we bring them in. We interview them. We do something for. We used to only do it for non-traditional, and now we do it for traditional as well. We do what we call a competency test, and so we have them come in and actually work in the department that they're applying for a couple of hours to see if they're good at it. Because it's really easy to sound really awesome on paper, just like it's easy to look really rich on Instagram. So we bring them in and we make sure that they actually know what they're doing and that they're good at it. And we hire them the same, whether they're traditional or non-traditional. It's exactly the same. Now, as far as people's faith within our company, we have agnostics that work for us, we have Muslims that work for us, we have Protestants and Catholics, and we have an atheist that works for us. And so we do not ask anyone to, and that's not a question when they come in and interview. We tell them we are a faith-based company. We don't ask you to conform to our faith. The only thing that we ask is that, hey, we're going to pray at every meeting, and we just ask that you be respectful of that, and we'll be respectful of you. So we don't have, even though we are a private company, and I suppose we could say, you have to be of this faith, we don't do that because, one, if we did that, then we're not getting the opportunity to get to know other people, and that's not intentional diversity. That's not intentional inclusion. That's just saying, we're not going to talk to you. So all faiths are in our company. Well, I don't know about all of them. I don't think we have anybody that's Jewish at this time.
So Gina, this is Professor Lockhart, who brought her business law.
Look, I've been doing good now. I just started sweating like a professor is going to ask a question. No.
Well, he's doing that because I'm probably one of the few lawyers in the room, too.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
No. Are you mad at me for my Google comment? No.
I'm not mad at all. It's all good. When you are talking about hiring felons, do you go minister to the prisons, or how do they learn about your company? Have you thought about ministering in the prison?
We do not minister to the prisons at this point. Honestly, how they learn about us is the probation office knows, and there's a program called the Exodus Project, and they know about us. It's trying to help people come out of prison and reduce recidivism. So we have not had to advertise much on that field, because it's like once somebody knows, it spreads like wildfire. So I was absolutely amazed at how many companies will not hire someone that has a felony. It's almost shameful. We say, oh, you've paid your debt to society, but not really. So. Yeah.
Hello. Any particular advice for women in business dealing with disrespect and just all the obstacles that kind of come into play?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually writing a book on that. So if you really did connect to me on Instagram, you'll see that coming out. So I'm a woman in manufacturing. There are very, very few of us. I told a story at dinner about how one time I can run all of our machines, and I was running one of the machines, and a young man walked up to me, and he leaned in, and he said, you need to be careful. These machines are expensive. And I told him, I know, I wrote the check for him. So So that when they're my employee, I can say, do you know that I have, I've written the check for these machines, or or who do you think, when we only had 4 people, who do you think ran these machines? But actually in society, probably the biggest amount of disrespect is being dismissed. My husband and I own our company together, so people automatically assume that we just put it in my name for business purposes or for tax purposes, which, let me tell you, you get no special tax treatment for being a woman. They do not care whatsoever. You may get, government contracts, and we don't actually even contract with the government. But I have a lot of that just trying to dismiss me, and so I do have to step up and say, actually, I run the business, or actually, I'm the one that writes the checks. And one time we had a salesman come in, and our air conditioner was broke upstairs where offices are, and so I was downstairs right as you walk in. And he walked in, he looked at me and walked right past me onto our production floor. And within probably 10 seconds, he was back, and he goes, oh, I hear you're the one with the checkbook. I said, yeah, and you're not getting one. And I know I need a lot of grace in Jesus, and I didn't have it at that moment. But so I do deal with a lot of disrespect. As I have gone farther in my career, I kind of will, if someone comes in and they don't believe that I'm the owner, or they don't believe that I know what, I have the experience to do this, I'm kind of sneaky, and I'll connect with them on LinkedIn so they can see my resume. And I also, I'll say, hey, you can Google me, I had one guy, actually, one time I gave him my card, and this is where I got the idea. I gave him my card, and we were talking, and all of a sudden, he picks up his phone. He starts looking at his phone. I thought, well, I guess that wasn't that interesting, And he goes, Mark Cuban? That's really cool. I was like, what? He had literally Googled me standing right next to me. And so I guess he decided to Google me to see if I was credible. And, luckily, there I am standing with Mark Cuban accepting an award. And so, it's not like we're buddies, although I did make the latches for his plane. So a lot of it is letting them know, hey, I have experience in this. And are you guys aware of something called microaggressions? Oh, I love college students. I say that to people in their 30s, and they're like, we don't even know what that is. So a lot of the times the guys will, it'll be little microaggressions where they'll say things, or they'll ignore what I say. Or I was in a board meeting one time, and I was speaking, and I swear I was like the Holy Spirit. Every time I spoke, another male commissioner would say, I think we should do this. And I was like, well, the program money should really be spent like X. And then the guy would go, I really think the program money should be spent like X. And I'm like, what happened here? And so I started to say, thank you, Commissioner Smith. That's exactly what I was referring to. I'm glad you agree with me. And I remember the first time I did that, the guy looked like, he literally was like, wait, did you say that? Did you speak? I didn't even know. And after I started to do that a couple of times, he began to say, I agree with Commissioner Radke. And I think it was just really bringing his attention to the fact that he was doing it, and he didn't realize he was doing it. And so a lot of the times with disrespect, I will bring the attention to that. I'm very lucky in the sense that I have male allies now in my corner. I came back and I taught my executive leadership team about mansplaining, about microaggressions. And so one time we had a supplier in, and one of my staff, the supplier basically kept mansplaining me, and one of my staff goes, are you mansplaining her? She's been in this industry longer than you have. And I was like, thank you. I wanted to do a little high five, but I didn't, so I try to deal with it with as much grace as possible. I don't always do that very well, but I know that dealing with it with anger is not going to get me anywhere. I was telling this story earlier. I was at a supplier conference, and what that means is that all these guys had a bunch of machines, and they're trying to tell us stuff, and they fly us in, and there were 3 women on the bus, and there were probably 60 people on this bus, and we go to get off, and they let all the women go first, and this guy offered me his hand, and I took his hand and said thank you as I walked down the steps of the bus, and the woman behind me said, that must be somebody's wife. I don't need no man's hand. And I was like, okay, rude. First of all, you insulted me with your feminism, and you insulted him. Do you think he's going to be like, man, I really want some women to come work for me now? And so I really try to do it as politely, but also as poignant as possible, as saying, do you realize that when you said this, this is what it meant to me, or this is what it sounded like, just to bring people's attention to it. So, and then if it happens more than once for my employees, we have disciplinary actions. So.
share with us just kind of what some of your programming around those efforts in your organization, but also speak to, as one of your Facebook friends, just being able to look into your life and some of your transparency and your own personal journey. Can you kind of share some of that as well?
Yeah, sure. So one of the ways that I'm working on inclusion, and this, I'm just going to be really honest with you, what I'm about to say may offend you. So I began to look and notice that everyone in my company, not everyone, but we had a large amount of white males. And I don't have anything against white males. My daddy's a white male. I love him to death. But I began to go, where are the women? Where are the minority? Like, what's going on? Like, how come we don't have any black people applying for this job? And my HR person said, well, nobody's applying. And I said, listen, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you have to go to blackpeoplemeet.com. Like, we need to let people know that we're here and that we're open and we want diversity. And so that's we're very intentional about there's a website called jobstar.com, and it caters to, or I don't want to say caters to, its target audience is minorities, and it's like a monster job, monsters.com. I haven't looked for a job in a long time, so I don't know the name of them, but, or Indeed. And so we advertise on there, and we advertise with the state. And I have never once had a female or a minority, that's a lie, just kidding. I've never had an American minority apply for a position in my engineering department. So we're working with Philander Smith, which is our local historically black college and university in Little Rock, to start a engineering program that will focus on females of color, and we're going to do internships with them. And then in my personal life, I have a very diverse family. My husband is Native American. We have a white son that's adopted. We have a black son that's adopted. And then we have a brown son that was a surprise. And so my son is he's funny. He says, he'll say he's whitish or he's tan or, But so we just have diversity within our family. I've always had diversity within my family. And it's part of who I am. I grew up the only white girl in my neighborhood, and so I feel very comfortable with diversity. And I begin to notice that if I'm sitting with people that all look like me, that something's wrong there. And so I need to reach out and meet other people who don't look like me. And I know that we feel comfortable with everyone who looks like us because that's what we do. And I mean, you guys, look at the people sitting at your table. Do they all look like you? And that's comfortable, right? Because, you go with what you know. But if you start reaching out, you know so much more. And so I'm very intentional about reaching out and meeting with people of different races and even different cultural experiences. I don't have I was not raised in the country. I don't own a pair of boots. So meeting a, white female farmer, that's a different cultural experience for me. So I like to be very, very intentional about that because it just makes my life better. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm, the poster child for inclusion, but I do try really, really hard because I see the benefit of it, and I just see how much more literally colorful it makes my life. Did that answer? Do you want me to answer? Okay. I was being Facebook friends, she may be like, no, I'm talking about this. No.
Gina, thank you so much. I know that this is a big commitment to take the time to prepare and to drive all the way here and back tonight because you're maybe crazy. But thank you so much for your willingness to come and share with students and to tell them what it's like and how you're using your business to honor God and serve others and impact the world. Group, help me thank Gina Radke for taking the time.